Alex Golesh is on a hiring spree, but is he hiring the best of the best? Mid-Week Rapport coming at you, brought to you by our friends at the Rage Room. If you're in the Opelika area, 1510 2nd Ave. If you're in Birmingham, 2616 7th Ave South. The Rage Room, break some stuff, get some frustration out. It is a great team-building activity. Or if your boss just got on your nerves and you want to go break some stuff, appreciate them for being the title sponsor of this segment. Guys, sign up as a patron. $5.99 a month will get you there. We are burning up these YouTube streets thanks to our patrons. And Ike has been on the road for you guys all year long, covering Auburn football on the road, now Auburn basketball on the road. Hoops Giving is up next, so he'll be in Atlanta covering that game live. You can help keep him on the road by signing up for one of these patron memberships. $5.99 a month will get you there. Check us out on podcast, all the podcast platforms. We are there with the Auburn Express Uptempo College Loop, Just a Sec, and the War Report Gaming channel. Lots of great audio only content for you guys. Help us continue to climb the podcast charts by subscribing over there. Leave us a review. Turn on automatic downloads. Helps us out a ton. I want to thank our friends at the Rogue Shop. Visit rogueshop.com. Use code REPORT to get 15% off your Rogue Shop order. Pain, sleep, stress, anxiety, whatever ails you in life, the Rogue Shop could have something that has you covered. If you've got some traditional ailments that could require some non-traditional remedies, well, a lot of products that could help you out. Our guy Richard is a longtime sponsor of the show, dropping us a little something extra in there for everybody using code REPORT today. Last but certainly not least, we want to thank our friends at SetsForSociety.ai. The road to knowing self starts at Sets for Society. They've got custom personality assessments to let you know a little bit more about how you think and how you can best think along with others to achieve like goals. Visit them today. Fill out the form. They'll reach out and do the rest. Get to know yourself. Sets for Society. Let's jump into the conversation here. Joining me is my partner in crime, Ike Jones, to talk a little Auburn football here on a Wednesday night. We're live on YouTube and on Twitter and Facebook. If you're joining us on Twitter, do us a favor. Come on over to YouTube. Hit subscribe on the channel. You guys have been doing that. We appreciate you for doing that. On today's show, we're going to talk about that Auburn coaching staff. They are hiring Ike. Alex Golesh is on a hiring spree, maybe. We're going to talk about a few of these hires and what it could mean for Auburn on the field. Let's start with Demarcus Van Dyke. In the press release, Golesh calls him DVD. A lot. Calls him by his initials, DVD. I love that. I haven't used a DVD in quite some time, but I'm with it. Make DVDs great again. Demarcus Van Dyke joins Auburn's most critical needs of positional improvement, and that is defensive back. Now, he was a third-round draft pick himself back in 2011. So this is a guy not too removed from playing pro football during a time relevant to a lot of these kids. And that's my way of saying he ain't old. He's bringing some young energy to this staff, man. What do you think about Demarcus Van Dyke joining the staff here, man? I like this hire a lot.
Yeah, I think it's a good hire. I think he's going to be a quality recruiter. I think the thing that I loved the most about hearing about the hire was hearing or seeing, I should say, on Twitter, Crime Dog saying, hey, this is a quality hire right here. Like, this is a guy who, I'm familiar with, and Auburn fans are going to love him. He's going to love Auburn. Like, that to me, like, you get the stamp of approval of the guy who was just in that seat. And you're all right with me. If Crime Dog says you're good, I'm good with it. Yeah.
Hey, look, in the official press release, Alex Golesh said, and I quote, "We are thrilled to bring Coach DVD to Auburn. He has an elite ability to build genuine relationships with his players and develop them at the highest level. His NFL experience brings a valuable perspective to our program, and he's worked and played for some of the best defensive minds in football. Coach DVD is going to make an impact on our defense, and his strongest connections in key recruiting areas will help us compete for the best talent in the country." Alex Golesh had to say about Van Dyke here. He goes on to say, under Van Dyke's leadership, cornerback Deshaun Rucker was named first team All AAC after totaling 55 tackles, including 39 solo stops with 1.5 tackles for a loss, an interception, and 4 passes defended. USF pulled off 14 interceptions last season. And that is an area I think Auburn can definitely stand to improve in, is turnovers. After the Iron Bowl, DJ Durkin talked about Auburn giving up turnovers when not getting enough to win that football game. And certainly if they can improve in that area, I think Auburn fans are going to be really happy with this hire.
Yeah, I mean, listen, that's something that I've noted has been I won't say an issue, but it's not been a part of DJ Durkin's defenses traditionally, is their ability, particularly to force interceptions, right? Like he everywhere he has been great against the run, and pass defense has suffered, right? Like I remember going into the Texas A&M game saying to myself, man, this Texas A&M, when he was at Texas A&M as a defensive coordinator, this Texas A&M defense has given up tons of yards through the air so far this season. Like it, but they nobody can run on him, right? Like it had only been a couple of games to the season. That's just kind of been who he's been. Is his front sevens have been amazing. If he can find a guy that can really get the back five into a place where they're playing at, forgive me, JJ, because you just said you wanted to have Coach Golesh say this less, at an elite level. If you can find a way to get those guys to be elite as well, then you've got a defense that's just not giving up anything. And I mean, good luck if you're going to go up against what has traditionally been a Golesh offense with a defense that's just not surrendering yards, right? Because it's been a bend but don't break defense, right? It's been, okay, we'll give up the yards here, but you get into the red zone, you're going to have trouble scoring. You get into a don't bend defense, and they're putting up 400 or 500 yards a game. Like that could be scary, right? But that's of course pie in the sky thought processes before they've even coached a single down. You don't know what players are going to be retained, but if he can get you to that place where they're getting takeaways and there can be an opportunistic defense with a bend but then break you defense where they're like, that's crazy. Yeah.
Auburn essentially turned down the Duke's Mayo Bowl. There were a couple of teams that had a shot at the Duke's Mayo Bowl. UCF, both teams I cover had got invited to the Duke's Mayo Bowl and said, no thanks, we don't eat mayo, only mustard and ketchup over here. I like that, again, you turned that down because you needed to build a staff. And he kind of said this earlier this week. He said, look, man, you got to figure out who's going to coach that bowl game. Right. We've got to figure out who's going to be on this roster. A bowl game is the last thing on our minds where this program is at right now. So it's good to see after that all these hires are starting to flood in. Yeah. It felt like, did it feel like it took Freeze a while to put his coaching staff together?
It did. And this goes back to what I was saying about the difference in the way this hiring process has gone for John Cohen. Mm-hmm. And all of this, can we be clear on a couple of things, right? Everyone was talking about how it seems as if he being Alex Golesh was being forced to hire certain people. That could, if that were true, he would not be bringing so much of this USF staff and putting them over here in Auburn, right? Like that doesn't jive with the he's being forced to hire certain people. If you feel like DJ Durkin was forced on him, again, I'd have to ask you, what defensive coordinator did you think was available that's better than DJ Durkin? And why would I question Alex Golesh from the beginning if you told me Durkin's not even on my short list of people who I want to hire, right? Like, so he should have been in consideration from the beginning. I'm questioning your decision-making process if Durkin's not on your short, which he said, listen, I don't care where I got hired. I'd have tried to take a shot at DJ Durkin anywhere, right? But this was to me again a stark difference in the way in which John Cohen approached this hiring search. Is the last guy we hired thought he could get a staff hired pretty quickly, and it turned out that was not the case.
Yeah.
Right. And so not just can you come in here and coach, but like, who are you going to bring in and how accessible are these? Let's vet out all of that. Can you go get the guy you think? Like it seemed like it was clear when John Summerall was the guy that what's my guy's name from Georgia Tech, offensive coordinator?
Buster Faulkner.
It seemed like that wasn't John Cohen working that out. That was John Summerall saying, if I get hired, I'm going to go get Buster Faulkner. And lo and behold, he gets the job at Florida. Who's the offensive coordinator?
I tried to tell everybody. This is not John Cohen.
When you said that, it sounded like Cohen was forcing this on him. No. Summerall said, this is the guy I want. And I'm like, great. If you can get him, bring them both over here.
Yeah,
and I will go back to my analogy. I'm not just giving you the VIP section. How many bad bees are you bringing to the section with you?
I would say that. I mean, but Faulkner was damn near Summerall's first hire.
That's what I'm saying. Like he knew
who he wanted to
wherever
get.
I was getting the job, this is the first phone call I'm making.
Yeah. So we reported it. There were people who contested it. I don't know why they contested it. We got a lot of things right. We got almost everything right around this coaching search. I did not know that Golesh was the third guy. I reported that there was a mystery third candidate, but they were keeping it under wraps. And his name came to my ear only like 48 hours before Auburn made the hire. But they kept it so under wraps, I couldn't really confirm it. So I didn't feel comfortable putting it out there. I mean, look, it does seem like it's going faster, but also he is bringing over a lot of USF dudes.
Right. So which again, if there were meddling going on, why would he be allowed to bring a bunch of people who he already had previous I really, for the first time, I think we can put that narrative to bed with this coaching search. Alex Golesh is being allowed to hire who he wants to hire. If you think he's been hamstrung with DJ Durkin, that's a crazy thing to say to begin with. Because again, DJ Durkin's one of the best defensive coordinators in the country. That's like you saying, yeah, I'm only going to give you this house, but you got to kind of take the bends too.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Sure. I'll take the really nice car too. Sure. No problem.
Yeah.
That's not forcing something. I mean, you can have the house, but I'm going to pay all the bills for it. I just need you to live. Think about it. You know what? Yeah, I'll take rent-free housing. Sure. Like, What are we saying, bro? Like, can we stop that? Can we stop that, please?
This is definitely Golesh's glow-up moment here. And I said this because someone asked me a question. And we talked about it on our Auburn Express episode with Kyle Rush from the Barn, talking about, he asked me the question, what is there a time frame on a change of mindset on the type of guys that he's going to bring in to Auburn versus the type of guys that he brought into USF? And I said, no, I don't think there's any mindset change going on. The only difference is now you're at Auburn, so you have access to all the baddies you're talking about, right? You got access to this is your glow up.
Right.
You win, you got a fresh haircut, you got your money up, you put on some nice clothes, and you went out and you said, hey, baby, Porsche, let's go.
Right. Like you're no longer having to talk people into it. Like they're willfully coming over to you now.
Like, nice
you're
car.
having a conversation. It's like before I had to go chase you down a little bit. I think she went over by the bar away from her girl. Let me go holler over it real quick. It's like now it's like they're walking up to you like, hey,
he's got a
what y'all doing over here?
Yeah, right. Yeah,
what y'all got going on?
Is that $1,000 bottle of Patron in the club?
So I mean, that's how you end up landing a Tavian Branch. Tavian Branch wasn't going to USF, but okay, all right, well, maybe Auburn. That's a little different. Yeah, I like you as a coach, but I was never coming to USF. You're at Auburn now. Oh,
yeah. No.
Okay.
Yeah, I told Charlie Five. Or, I'm sorry, I keep calling him Charlie Five. That's his internet name. I told Kyle. I think there is all these coaches know who the baddies are. They know who the guys are.
Right.
I reported last week they met with Cam Coleman and his family. You know how that meeting went? We want you here.
Right.
And let me tell you something. There were some other people on the roster who, again, I will talk about this later out of respect for the process. But we're told already, you're not a good fit here. You know who's a good fit everywhere? Cam Coleman.
Yeah, the people who would argue that he's not a generational talent, find me a coach in America who agrees with you.
Who would not take Cam Coleman right now and start him tomorrow.
Yeah.
He's starting wherever he goes. And Golesh knows it. No argument. I can't imagine the pitch to keep Perry Thompson here was very strong.
I mean, consider if Cam is still considering it, then it couldn't have been equivalent pitches, because I don't know what you could have said to one that you would have said to the other that one would be like, nah, I'm out.
Right. Yeah. I mean, he as quickly as he entered the portal.
Yeah.
The pitch couldn't have been very strong if it was strong at all, if a pitch was made at all.
Right.
So,
which, I mean, listen, to be, and this is the place, I guess, where the trust of the coach has to come in place. He knows who the guys are that work well with the things that he wants to be able to do.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm taking him at his word, which I have no reason to not take him at his word, he's done his evaluations. And at the end of the day, even if he wanted Perry Thompson here, the reciprocal has to be true. Perry still has to want to be at Auburn. And if we're in here, we're having the conversation, you're like, we're starting a conversation with, well, do you want to be here? And there's uncertainty there. I'm not even giving you my best pitch. Like, all right, well, when you decide you want to be here, then we'll have a conversation about what it's going to take to keep you here. Right. Because if we're being fair, the production that you've had so far doesn't justify the paycheck of what I think you're going to want. So that conversation is probably going to start at reduction of what you're being paid in NIL. Right. And if that doesn't sound like an appealing conversation to you and you can't make like a team first move like that, then it probably is best that you hit the portal. And that's not even about your talent.
He talked about that on Monday. He talked about, we got to figure out who wants to be here, who's committed to being here. So, because I'm not going to waste time committing to guys who aren't committed to being here. I definitely understand that. But you have to also let those guys know what it is they're committing to.
Right.
So those pitches were being made this week, right? Like where they're reaching out to guys and they're saying, hey, listen, this is what we want to do. But to your point, they already knew coming in the door whether a lot of these guys fit what they were trying to do or not, because everybody's when you recruit top 10 rosters, everybody knows who those guys are because everyone was recruiting them.
Right.
You did evaluations on them. You made offers to these guys. You already know. So unless those guys had enough production since you last recruited them that you could say we missed in this evaluation and this guy was really good and now we want him.
Right.
For the most part, you already know. Now, going back to the hire, Demarcus Dyke, does he help you with player retention? If you are in that cornerback's room right now, or how many guys in there, given how they play, are you worried about keeping?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. That's a great because
they did. I mean, they are highly rated guys.
There's a couple of things at play here, right? Like some of those guys, defensive backs, and I'll include safeties in this conversation, came to Auburn because they wanted to be coached by the coaches that were in that room at the time, right? And you're talking about what's my guy's name that's at Jacksonville State now, head coach?
Charles Kelly.
Yeah. So Charles Kelly's not there anymore. The other guy, that you really liked, that, you wanted to be around, and really great coach, I like being coached by him, no longer a coach here either. How much is DJ Durkin, the trust that they have in Durkin, going to say, all right, if Durkin likes him, cool, we'll see, I'm still going to be in Dirk's defense, but like who's in that position room is going to matter to those young men, because those are the guys that help shape how they're going to be looking every Saturday. Now, again, if we're going to be honest, a lot of those guys didn't look very good on Saturdays last year in that cornerback room, right? And so maybe they welcome the change to say maybe we need somebody else in here, and we look at his pedigree and what he's put out there in the landscape of collegiate football, or even the work that he's done in pro football, and say maybe this is a guy who can take me to the next level. But I think the relationship piece of that is going to be important, and how quickly can they, because they've only got a couple weeks to figure this whole relationship piece out with this new coach. And that's why he wanted to get these guys in and hired as quickly as possible.
Yeah, I did. There's so much to do. December has, and we didn't plan to talk about this, but I'm gonna take us on a ride tonight around some things that I think are important to the framework of college football. Number one, if you didn't make the playoff, if you did not make the college football playoff, your priorities in December are wildly different than everybody else's. I think that's why we're seeing so many people turn down these bowl games, because you're worried about roster retention. Guys are gearing up to hit the portal. You don't even know who's going to be on your team.
Right. And you have to get this right, because you only got one shot at it now.
Yeah, right. And so it's not just about the 5 and 7 teams that got invited. I think this is part of the math for teams like Notre Dame. Look, man, we really wanted to make the playoff. We didn't make it. We're going to start focusing on 2026, because whatever little bowl game that you guys want to send us to is not worth our time when I've got early signing day. I've got to worry about players hitting the portal. I've got contracts to renegotiate. I got all kinds of things that I have to do in December. So we're not playing for championships because that's the standard.
Right.
Then I'm moving on to next year.
Yeah, because as much as people want to say, all right, man, these additional practices and you get an opportunity, like that's cool and everything. But if you go out there and you lose that game, nobody's going to be like, well, he only had. It's going to be like, no, this is another bowl loss on your record.
Yeah. And I'll tell you this. I like that point. I will add that the potential for injuries, not worth it. Now, if we're not playing for championships, if we didn't make a 12-team playoff, then I'm moving on to 2026, because I'm on a truncated timetable to figure out a lot of things. When signing day, and I got to tell you, there was a part of me that liked early signing day. I'm starting to hate it. When it was in February, you had more time to figure these things out. New coaches had more time to flesh out recruiting classes coming in. Now it's just, you just got patched together whatever you can by the string of your teeth in like a couple weeks. This is something that I think and we need to take a look at, because
I mean, the calendar's been screwy for a while.
Yeah.
But yeah, I understand early signing day and wanting to, like, the purpose initially was you get the guys signed and then they can come and they can be a part of your spring camp, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you can have the early enrollees and all that sort of thing. So I understand that that's a bit of a quick turnaround in February to have those guys sign and still be there, but it's not impossible.
Yeah.
Like, why are we putting all of the onus on the schools into this and not the young men to say, all right, well, just go ahead and commit. Like, I know what signing day is, you can already know where you're going.
Yeah. Well, if you think you're going to have a bunch of guys hit the portal, it's really hard to think about playing a bowl game in December. And I did an episode about this over at Locked On UCF, and woke up to an email from the UCF SID about, hey, Mike, great episode. I'd like to clarify some things. And he gave me his thoughts on, UCF essentially turning down the Duke's Mayo Bowl. Everything he said was 100% valid. And the school's perspective on this is that they came up with a plan early about whether they would participate if invited. And what I heard was we got a lot of other priorities. So we knew early that we would say no if we were invited. Like, they decided before they got the invite that they would say no, and inform the conference of such. So there are things that are happening in the in the college football world. Paul Feinbaum is going viral right now, talking about JMU and Tulane essentially being a waste of space making the playoffs. And listen, I love Paul. He invites us on his show often, so the War Report gets that from the Feinbaum show. there are some things I agree with him on and what he said. I mean, a lot of people were disagreeing with him, but there are some things I do agree with him on in terms of, you know, yeah, a lot of people blaming the ACC for what happened. I mean, they're taking it on the chin this offseason, but could we have put Notre Dame in this playoff and bumped JMU out? I get the whole argument about the ACC, but I'm just like, I don't. There's some misses here. Did Bama really deserve to be in this thing over Vanderbilt?
I mean, the the whole idea of who deserves to be in this thing is always going to be a weird thing.
There were a few discrepancies. There were a few. I mean, usually it's like 1 or 2 on the back end. This year, it's like 3 or 4 teams where we're like scratching our heads about how did y'all get this wrong? And Vandy, a 10-win Vandy team in the SEC, they deserve the shot to represent. But now here they are, instead of playing in the college football playoff, they're turning their attention.
This is, and listen, I'm not. This will be the only time I will ever agree with a Bama fan about anything related to their team. If Vanderbilt had been the team to go to the SEC championship game rather than Bama, and they went there and they lost, they would still be a 10-win
and got shellacked.
And I mean, and gotten beaten the same way that Bama did. Would we be making the argument that Vandy didn't deserve to be in if Vandy had gotten the nod for going to the SEC championship game?
Good point.
Because Bama would have been sitting at home, same number of losses, right? They'd be a 10-win team. And would anybody be sitting here crying and saying Bama deserved to be in there? They're a 10-win team. Vandy's now 3, no. Like, I find it difficult to punish them for making the SEC championship. But I don't think to that point, Bama's not the team that I'd kick out if I'm talking about deserving. It'd be somebody else.
Yeah. Look, I mean, there are a lot of really good discussions to be had around what college football is today and how teams like Auburn hiring a new coach are going to spend their December. Now, if you didn't see the couple of Big 12 teams that turned down their bowl games that created the space for 5-win teams to get in, they got fined by the conference like $500,000. Now, if you don't know how the bowl revenue works, it is all pooled and then distributed evenly amongst all the schools. It's what helps create somewhat of an even financial playing field for all the teams in the SEC. The even revenue sharing model is part of what drew A&M and Missouri to the SEC over the old Big 12, where Texas got preferential treatment and TV deals and all that. And when they came to the SEC, they had to give all that up. That wasn't going to fly here. They knew that. But the Big 12 had weak leadership when Texas and Oklahoma were in the big. I mean, they just let Texas do whatever they wanted. And it created a competitive disadvantage to all the other teams in the Big 12. Well, I just think that now you're in a situation with NIL, with the portal, with early signing day, that December just isn't what it once was. And playing in a low-tier bowl game has a lot less appeal than it did. Now,
no appeal. Like there's maybe scholarship stuff that they're donating to the schools is appealing in some sort of way, but like now that revenue sharing is what it is, like they need to have some sort of NIL structure attached to it for it to start making sense again for these teams or for these players to not opt out, or otherwise there's no purpose in these bowl games anymore. Screw all the tradition. Like, nobody wants to go play in this. It doesn't mean anything.
Yeah. Look, there's some really important conversations that you and I and Caesar, and Brian, when we can get them on, are going to have around what college football is today, and how these coaches have to prioritize the health and long-term future and needs of their team over this essentially what is fanfare, because that's what these bowl games are now.
Right.
Emmanuel Acho, he went on a rant about a lot of this, and I disagree with a lot of what he said. But the part of it that I did agree with is, I wonder if you were on Notre Dame's team and that was going to be your last college football game, how you feel about them giving up that bowl bid.
Yeah.
That last chance to get some tape. Or if there was a guy hitting the portal, in the first spot and you were in the second spot, and that was your chance to step in and maybe even get a jump on everybody else for the starting spot next season. How you feel about them giving up that bowl game? There seemed to be some, I guess, uniformity on the Notre Dame side from the coach and the AD and everybody about them sitting that out. But for Auburn, again, it's everybody seemed on the same page about it. Like, we got an invite, but it's not in our best interest to accept this invite because, now as a fan, let me tell you something. As a fan, I would have loved to have seen Alex Golesh's first game be a bowl game. Could he come in and then take Deuce Knight and let's go get a preview of what this could look like?
Yeah,
with Alex Golesh at the helm. I mean, more football, yes, please.
Right.
More Auburn football this season, yes, please. But putting my analyst hat on, not a good idea. Not a good idea at all.
Yeah, because again, I think you have more to lose in that scenario than you have to gain because you've got to figure out, I mean, maybe, okay, because you've already had some coaches that left, right? Are you going to have them come back and say, hey, well, come coach again for the next couple of weeks, so we're going to go to this bowl game so that, Alex Golesh is essentially just kind of figurehead in this, and Derek Nix is who's calling the offense, and Golesh is just there to kind of help game prep, but we're going to use an offense that I'm unfamiliar with because I can't install my entire offense in this short amount of time. So we're going to keep your offense. I'm just going to call timeout. What am I even doing here? You know what I'm saying? Like, it becomes very weird. And again, if he loses that game, right, nobody's going to excuse, other than Auburn fans who want to be sympathetic.
Will be made. Yeah, a lot of judgments will be made.
Yeah, they're going to say, oh my God, look, he can't even win against blah, blah, blah. That's why you shouldn't have 5-win Auburn. But if he wins the game, right, but do you even want to take that chance? It's just a lot, man.
Yeah, what I would say,
a 5-8 finish is sad, bro.
No, come on, just spend your time recruiting. That's what I say. Spend your time recruiting and evaluating what's in the portal, because you're going to have to go to the portal, Ike, to make up for the truncated recruiting cycle with the high school guys. So spend that time evaluating and scouring the portal, and if they're allowed to talk to agent, whatever you're allowed to do it, right, around recruiting, because you got to build a roster for next season. And, Perry Thompson hit the portal. He's not the last high-profile guy that's going to hit the portal. There are going to be some other guys who are going to be told to hit the road, and there's going to be some other guys who they want to stay who are going to tell Auburn no.
Right.
I didn't commit to you. I'm going to go play someplace else. And there is an appeal if you're, a Perry Thompson coming in the door. You're more highly valued coming in through the portal as a former top 30 overall player in the country.
Right.
So there are going to be a lot of guys who they commit to him when you're the guy coming in that they're committing money to. There's security in that. When an incumbent comes in and you feel like you're having to prove yourself to that guy, that's a lot less advantageous spot for a guy like Perry.
Yeah.
So, it is there. I'm saying all that to say the coach has a lot on them in December that they didn't have before. And I think that it is paramount that fans realize that, and we don't get too caught up in the fanfare of, oh, well, they turned the bowl game down, because we all want more Auburn football as much as we can get. Before we get to the break, I will say this: for as much as we're talking about this December, I hope that Alex Golesh makes the spring more important again.
That was one thing I actually hoped. I don't know if it's too early to ask that question, but I'm hoping at some point in time between now and then, I don't know what they were doing back at USF for spring games, but like, what is the spring going to look like? Because man, since Gus left, A-Day has just not been.
It's been terrible.
It's not.
You remember Hartman's first spring? I was like, what is this format? What are they doing? Some weird scoring model, and just show me football, man.
Yeah,
I want to see football, and I want to see you play it reasonably well. Now, I get it. You don't want to show too much in the spring game, but you can run base stuff and kind of show off your talent. Still, give us something to hope for, man. That's what I hope that we get this spring. I hope
Yeah.
Alex Golesh shows us, man, show us how you work with QBs. Show us the work with the QBs. Show us these receivers running real routes. Show off the talent, man. He's going to bring some guys in from USF. Show those guys off. Let's see what they can do.
Right.
Springs were so unimportant under Freeze. It was one of my biggest criticisms of him. I mean, this past 8A was one of the most boring, worthless 8As I ever watched. We got to see lots of Deuce Knight, but we didn't get to see the guy who you already committed to start. I loved seeing Deuce. I would have loved to see Jackson.
Yep.
We didn't see him because you gave him the job, and then when he got a little hamstring or whatever it was just like, just sit him out.
Yeah, I just like, again, I mean, if you want to have an open practice session, do that, but don't call it 8A and don't charge people to go to it.
Yeah.
What are we doing, bro?
Agreed. Look, we're gonna
Which again, if somebody else wants to pick up the torch for Coach Freeze's idea of playing, whatever other team from the state and have a full scrimmage, then I'd still love to see that. I think that's still a great idea, but yeah, don't give us a practice.
All right, let's get to the break here. On the other side, we're going to get to your comments. We see you if you're on Twitter or Facebook. Drop your comments, but mostly do us a favor, social media guys, come on over to YouTube. It's a much better commenting experience over here on the YouTube platform. Myself, Ike Jones, we're going to run this thing tonight, man. We're going to have a lot of fun in the second half of the show. There are some more hires that we want to talk about, and then I'm going to run down some of the administrative hires that Auburn made. Alex Golesh pulling his staff together quickly, I think, which is important. So you love to see that process-driven program coming together fast. Share this video on whatever social media platform you're on at The War Report. Use hashtag Get Your Weight Up so people know that it's us and that you're watching us. Hit like and subscribe over here on the YouTube channel, guys. Can't stress enough. Come on over to YouTube at The War Report on X and Instagram, TW Report on TikTok. Follow TWR Ike Jones on Twitter. He's going to be at Hoops Giving this weekend. Follow me at Mike Gittins on Twitter as well. Let's pay some bills, and when we come back, we're going to talk more Auburn football.
This edition of The War Report is brought to you by our generous sponsors. Golden's Cast Iron. Whether you work out, grill out, or chill out, you deserve the best life possible, and Golden's Cast Iron is here to provide the tools to help you do it. Check them out at goldenscastiron.com.
The Rage Room. The Rage Room is a place where anger and stress find their ultimate release. Set up a session today at one of the 2 great locations in Opelika or Birmingham by visiting opelikaRageRoom.com or BirminghamRageRoom.com.
YouTube now has a hype button just for the content you love the most. The War Report is delivering the coverage you count on daily, so smash that hype button to help the channel reach more college sports fans. It's a great way to support our work. Smash that hype button. This episode of The War Report is brought to you by our friends at Abel's I&O Moore & Associates. Ike, running a business means investing in everyone else, but who's investing in you? Abel's I&O Moore & Associates help small business owners manage excess cash, build retirement plans, and create investment strategies that make their money work beyond the business. There's no minimum to start, and your initial review is completely complimentary. Call AIMA at 912-777-4128. Scan the QR code on your screen or visit AIMC.com to see how fiduciary guidance can help your business grow long after closing time. The War Report has been compensated by Abel's I&O Moore & Associates for this endorsement. Abel's I&O Moore & Associates is a SEC registered investment advisor. Registration as an investment advisor does not imply a certain level of skill or training. This episode of The War Report is also brought to you by our friends at Sky Tobacco and Vape. Ever run out of vape juice and think, well, that's it, I'm just out of luck? Not with Sky Tobacco and Vape. They've got more locations than the Waffle House, Columbus, Phoenix City. They're everywhere. Whether you're on the thruway, the bypass, or just cruising around town, Sky Tobacco and Vape is probably just right around the corner from where you're at, guys. They've got vapes, tobacco, and deals so good you'll swear they misprinted the price tags. Sky Tobacco and Vape, good vibes, great deals, and zero judgment if you walk in at 10 p.m. wearing your pajama pants. I want to thank our friends at the Vibe Vault. You can find them at 3462 Crosswinds Road, Suite E in Phoenix City, Alabama. That's on Highway 431, right across the street from Chattahoochee Valley Community College, next to the Renfro Supermarket and the Marco's Pizza. Lineups, beer trims, faves, they do it all. As a matter of fact, I got all 3 of those things done today before the show. So if you want to line up like mine, the Vibe Vault is the place to be. The Vibe Vault, not just barbers, lifestyle consultants. Last but certainly not least, we want to thank our friends at the Rogue Shop. Visit rogueshop.com. Use code REPORT to get 15% off your Rogue Shop order. Pain, sleep, stress, anxiety, whatever ails you in life, the Rogue Shop has something that has you covered. Our guy Richard, longtime sponsor of the show, dropping a little something extra for everybody using code REPORT today. Check us out on podcast. Any podcast platform, we're there. The Auburn Express, Uptempo, College Loop, Just a Sec, and the War Report Gaming Channel. I learned just recently how many of you guys listen to us on iHeartRadio. I didn't know that was a thing, but apparently it's a thing. It is the second most listened to audio platform that we have. I thought it would be Spotify, but man, iHeartRadio killing it. So whether you subscribe to iHeartRadio, Spotify, Amazon, we're everywhere. So please subscribe, drop us a comment, and leave us a review over there. It helps us continue to climb the podcast charts. Let's get to some comments here before we jump back into the conversation. Whether you're on X or Facebook, we see you and we appreciate you watching the show tonight. Almost 2,000 of you on here with us live. Share the video on social media so more people have a chance to join the conversation. V Can Lee with the $9.99 super chat. I followed more on this coaching hire than the last and loving what I've heard so far. I like to hear elite more than we're close. I'm really happy with this hire. I think this perfectly encompasses how a lot of people feel about this. And to your point, you've made this point repeatedly. The organization around the hire is what I think is put fans at ease about it. It didn't seem like they were scrambling for a coach in the 11th hour, did it? Not this time.
Yeah, I mean, the camp that felt like this hire got botched, I think, well, they felt as if it was botched when the Summerall thing fell through, were people who did not realize I've got a backup plan, so I'm not worried. John Cohen always had a plan. It's like, all right, if this doesn't work, then I'm going to pivot here. If this doesn't work, I'm going to pivot. He always had this ready to go. So that's if you didn't have to go outside of your plan was not botched.
Yep, I agree. Dustin Pace with the $4.99 super chat said, look at Auburn's bowl history the last 15 years. There's nothing newer to this program. I've been to 2 of them in that period, and they were pathetic. Yikes.
Probably the Birmingham Bowl versus Houston. And the what was the one in Nashville? It was
the Music City Bowl was Maryland. Yeah. Dustin Pace says, thoughts on the new OC. You got thoughts on the new OC, Ike?
I mean, he's the same OC that's been rocking with him. So listen, I say this often about offensive coordinator, it's more art than anything else.
Okay.
He seems to have a good feel for the game. When I watch USF, games, and I look at, because that's a thing that you and I have talked about often, is just kind of like, it's not that the entire game was terrible play calling. It was at key moments. How did you call the play on this critical third down, or in this critical end of the half, end of the game scenario? Like, we're down here in the red. Why'd you call that? Of all the plays in the playbook, why that one at that time?
Yeah.
Right? He seems to have a good feel for, like, I haven't, of course, watched every game, but I've watched 2 or 3 games now, and I haven't said to myself, yo, what was that call? I haven't found myself saying that in watching these games. That's a good sign.
Maybe completely unrelated, but kind of. Have you seen the drama around Browns coach Kevin Stefanski pulling Shedeur Sanders out
on that? It was a 2-point conversion at the end of the game. Yes,
he cooked and got you back in the game, and at the most critical moment, you pull him out of the game.
Because the thing is, the call that he made, you could have made that with Shedeur in the game. Like, it didn't benefit you one bit to have the running back taking a direct snap in that situation. You didn't get any plus advantage on the blocking on the front end of the play, and it wasn't more deceptive than the reverse that was called on it. So you could have run that exact same play with Shedeur right there on the field. It was mind-boggling.
Yeah, I could tell you, it's hard for me to remember a play, college or pro, where so many people went to social media to call for a dude to be fired because of one play. They were already kind of upset that they had Shedeur buried on the bench for as long as they did. Dylan Gabriel's girlfriend apparently was sharing their pillow talk on her "Get Ready with Me" on TikTok. that Cleveland is dysfunctional. Let's see here. The Lee says, Ike, I hope you travel to a game where Auburn doesn't get spanked by 30 again. You went all the way out to Arizona. Look, man, Arizona is
and Vegas. I was there for both of them.
Yep.
I had a media seat for both of the 30-point shellackings that Auburn took so far this season. So yeah.
Trust me, man. This was a brutal non-conference schedule for Auburn basketball. They won't see a stretch like that in conference play.
And listen, man, I don't want to see him get spanked again by 30, right? Like, so yes, I agree with you. But I'm going to make the trip every single time. And I think that there are massive overreactions happening right now from people around this basketball team. And I do think that this team is a lot better than people think. I remind people, the NCAA tournament for basketball, I don't want to stay on basketball too long because we got a lot of football talk, it's a 64-team field which essentially gets expanded to 68. The thought process that you can determine that this Auburn team, after playing 10 games, has no shot of making the tournament, even though they have Power 4 wins already this season within those games because they lost 2 games badly, is such a massive overreaction that it's almost like I almost want to say to you, like, please stop reacting to any, like, because you clearly can't keep your emotions intact when you react, because to say at best this team is an NIT team today is a crazy take when they're still ranked in the top 25.
I agree, man. I just think I know people didn't want to hear the word patience, but I tweeted this out. I said, I'm imploring people. You have not seen the best of Auburn basketball yet this season. They still have time to get better. This is a brand new squad that they have put together. It's Tahad is the only returning person on your team. Everybody else is brand new. We've got a good relationship with Auburn basketball and Coach Stephen Pearl. I've talked to him in the post games, but also privately about some things about this program, and I think they're going to be okay, honestly. So I can't repeat all the things that we talked about privately, but I just think they're going to be okay. Dustin Pace says, if play calling is an art, then Freeze is that really bad guy from history. I don't know if that word will.
I don't even know the correlation to art in him, but maybe because he like burned.
I think he was an art connoisseur.
Yeah, like, yeah. I don't get the correlation between those two things, but
there was there were rumors that he had a bunch of art stashed away after the World War somewhere, like I guess maybe that's the correlation here. A few more comments I want to get through, not super chats. But Tulane, Maurice Boney says Tulane is also a joke, talking about them making it. Darius says, go back to the BCS. He says he hates this. Let's go on back.
BCS wasn't any better. There's not a perfect system for college football that's going to exist. I think the only thing that's going to make expanding the field, and I have been pretty firm on my idea of expansion not being the solution, but inevitable. But like, if it gets beyond 16, I think we're going too far. But I think the only route in which you get to a true play it on the field, and that matters, is if you actually include every conference, G5, P4, and their conference championships in the equation, right? Like, that is a part of the playoff. Is the first round of the playoff is the conference championships, and then you re-rank after that conference championship. So every conference's champion gets an opportunity, and you might still get some buys depending on how many conferences it is. And you make teams like Notre Dame pick a dang side. You're going to be in somebody's conference, or you will never play for a national championship again.
Yeah, they've got some special deal that kicks in after this year. Notre Dame does. This is a question for me and you. Lance Morgan asks, thoughts Mike and Ike? Ashton came knowing he was just a backup last year and was good with it. When Byron Brown comes, is he okay with the same being the number 3? Because I think Deuce Knight will be number 2 in the fall. The answer to that is no. He has 1 year of college football left to play. So you've got to go someplace where you have a realistic chance to start. If that's not Auburn next year, you got to bounce.
That was
It's
always a weird situation to me, right? Like,
yeah.
so let's go back to that for half a second here. He came over from Stanford, knowing Deuce Knight was here, the heir apparent, knowing that Jackson Arnold was here, the present, and it was determined fairly early on they were going to redshirt both Deuce Knight and Ashton Daniels. So you knew you'd have both of those next year. Ashton Daniels made it clear before this whole situation, they thought, maybe they were going to keep the band together and they were just going to promote Durkin, and you still have Nix here as the OC. He wanted to come back to Auburn for another season and play again, right? And I'm assuming that would mean that there's a QB competition going into the spring between Deuce Knight and Ashton Daniels, that Ashton Daniels felt at least somewhat confident that he could win for some reason. So he was already in his mind prepared to play at Auburn, knowing he could be the backup quarterback at Auburn next season, because Deuce Knight could realistically, in my mind, beat him out for QB1.
Yeah.
So maybe QB2 would be fine with him. But if I got to compete for maybe QB3, nah, bro.
No, absolutely
I'm out.
not. I'm out. Yeah, right. Yeah, and given what he did versus Vanderbilt and Alabama, I think it's very realistic, though, that there are a lot of teams out there, maybe at the high G5 level or even at a low P4 level, that would
he's going to get a job somewhere.
In a second, and say, oh, yeah.
He could literally tomorrow, if Byron Brown, decides to come to Auburn, go get a job at USF, and they pick him up in a heartbeat. Be like, yeah, okay, bring him in. He's played P4 at 2 different schools. We can just hit the ground running with him. He can be at USF the next day.
150 yards passing versus Vanderbilt. At Vanderbilt, right? He went 31 for 44 for 353 and 2 touchdowns through the air, and then 18 rushes for 89 yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground. That's one of the best games we've seen from an Auburn quarterback versus a top 15 team since Bo. Name a better performance by an Auburn quarterback versus a Power 4 team.
I mean, the closest you're going to get is, it's not better, but the closest you're going to get is what Robbie did versus LSU.
Right. And he was, 19 of 38? He was 50% passing.
That's why I said it's not going to be better, but it's going to be the closest you'll get. An over 300-yard performance from against a Power 4 opponent. That's the closest you'll get in the last 5-6 years.
And while that's the closest you'll get, it wasn't really close.
Right.
Ashton's performance blew I just think that he did these last 3 games of the season, or 2 games, because he didn't play against Mercer, really set him up for his next.
Yeah, you'd be foolish, I think, to not at least take a look at Ashton Daniels in the portal if you need a quarterback. He's going to get paid to go play quarterback somewhere next year.
Yeah, I do. I wish him well, man. He was a model teammate. He's
great guy.
Yeah. Just, man, I want the best for that kid. If it's not here, but again, to answer this question, there is absolutely no way he should even think about being okay with being number 3.
If I had his phone number, I would text him immediately and be like, bro, you have been amazing at Auburn. Please hit the portal.
Hit the portal. Yeah. You've got 1 year left to play. Right. And it's the same with Byron Brown. I would advise him the same thing. Don't go anywhere where you're not guaranteed to play. You're not going to be in a quarterback competition your last year. Unless, not after you've already started. You got 1 year left to play.
He's been a starter for the last couple of years. It makes sense for him to figure out where he's going to go, where he's got the chance to finish strong.
That's right. Right. If you're going to come back, if you're not going pro, you need tape, and you need someplace where you're going to be the guy. And there's all this talk about competition. That's for the younger guys. They got multiple years to play.
Which I do still think
that about you.
I do still think that it should be a fair competition, but if you're Byron Brown, fine. I know this system better than him. I know I can go play. If you want to set up a competition, great. It's stacked in my favor out the gate.
Big time. Big time. NH3425 says, I find it interesting that we've only lost 8 players to the portal. My hope is that Golesh is being convincing enough to keep the players we need to, i.e. Cam Coleman. It is an interesting observation. Not all of those guys they wanted to keep, though. Horatio Fields hit the portal. I'm not sure Sam Turner is in the portal yet, but I expect him to be in the portal. Some of these guys were told they don't fit what they're trying to do. And I like that you're telling them that early.
Nobody's actually in the portal yet, so let's be clear on that, number one. So guys could change their minds. But number two, there's still a lot of guys weighing out options, and they're waiting on some of these staff hires to happen. There's a lot of conversations being had with a lot of people in a lot of different places about what the future could be for them. So I say that to say only 8, that number is not going to stay that low. It just won't.
Agreed. Alex Wilson, 1989 says, players come and go. I want chips, even if I have to put on pads and go out there myself. 0 stars or 5 stars, I don't care. I want dogs and only dogs. Well, you want more 5 stars than 0 stars, Alex, if you want dogs and only dogs. But at the end of the day, Alex Golesh had a quote where he talked about proof of concept and putting proof of concept on tape. And that's going to be really important in this first year. Right, proof of concept in the SEC, so that guys can see that it translates. I don't think we're talking enough about the fact that he was the offensive coordinator at Tennessee just in 2021, Ike. So, as far as proof of concept is concerned, this is a guy who is familiar with the SEC and the level of competition and talent needed at Auburn to win. So he's got relevant experience to what college football is today. I've said this repeatedly. Don't go hire a coach whose most recent relevant accomplishments were 10 years ago. The game has changed too much. You need a guy who's done something in today's college football. A couple more comments here that I want to get to. Small Time says, move spring practice to right after the spring semester ends solves a lot of problems. Interesting thought there. AUTK says David Pollock destroyed the G5s for taking up space in the college football playoff. A beat up on G5 team seems to be a popular sentiment here in the national media. Maurice Boney says JMU is a joke. You can't punish teams for playing a title game. Hummer 999XX says, who's going to be the tight end coach? Back in 96, I took a PE class in Auburn. I met Tyrone Dillard. He has a weightlifting partner. He was a good tight end. At once upon a time, Auburn had a lot of really, really good tight ends. And man, my guy Ben, I like him personally, but tight end play has just been so bad. Who's a kid? Rivaldo Fairweather. I thought he was going to be a monster here. And it just never materialized for him. And they get somebody who can bring tight end play back. You've seen the tape. Golesh, he runs a lot of 11 personnel, does he not?
He does, yes.
Yeah, so you need a good tight end in an 11 personnel system. I just, or develop the guys that we have. I just can tell you, Preston, what's his name? Preston
Howard,
yeah. My mind is trying to erase him because of how bad he played this year.
It wasn't good, man. Like, I don't know another way to say it. Like, Preston, if you watch the show, I hope you concur with your take not being good.
Yeah, it just wasn't good. Last comment here before we jump back into the conversation. Dustin Pace says, a preseason scrimmage would be awesome. We just need a model after the NFL and get over this goofy model. No more committee. Interesting.
Yeah, again, that's why I think it needs to be settled on the field and not with this, committee deciding who they think is most worthy, because there's always going to be bias that gets interjected into that, right? Like this idea, that G5 programs don't deserve a shot at a national championship, I think is a little weird, because that football would be the only sport where you would do that, right? G5 teams get a chance in basketball. G5, like, what I'm saying? Like, and it's not G5, they're mid-majors, but still, the point is, you're giving them a shot in every other, and they don't win by and large, but that doesn't mean you don't let them into the field to allow them to play. And part of that is a reward for teams who have been great all season. You don't put them up against somebody amazing in the first round. You give them a chance to advance. Like, I don't see a problem with that, right? And again, if you make the criteria for entry into this, well, win your dang conference. If you don't win the conference, then let the chips fall where they may. We're not crying. If people go through a season and win the competition that's in front of them and win their conference, they should have a chance to compete for a championship.
Yeah.
At whatever level that is. Whether they've got a shot to actually win it or not is irrelevant. Well, I know that this third place team in the SEC is better. Great, they are. If you want to go compete in the G5, then tell them to move your school over to freaking the American Conference then, so you get a shot every year. I don't care. Stop crying and win your dang conference. And I'm talking from a space of covering a team who hasn't won the conference in a while. If we want a shot at it, go win the conference.
Yeah.
Play the competitions in front of you and beat them. Stop crying. If you want to be in the big boy leagues, go win the big boy league.
Yeah.
Why are you crying? Shut up.
I agree. Look, let's there's one more hire I want to talk about on tonight's show, and that is defensive coach. He will work with the Bucks and the edges. That's Coleman Hutzler. He has been hired as an assistant coach. Again, he's going to work with the Bucks and edges on defense. The official quote from Golesh: "We're excited to add Coach Hutzler and his family to our program. His strong SEC experience and proven ability as a recruiter will be invaluable to Auburn football. Coleman has multiple years of experience working with Coach Durkin and our defensive scheme, which allows for a smooth transition. He's an elite developer of talent that has produced more than a dozen NFL players and will make a tremendous impact on our program. Hutsler comes to Auburn with 20 years of experience, including the last 10 years in the Southeastern Conference. He most recently spent the last 2 years as defensive coordinator at Mississippi State. He has worked alongside Auburn defensive coordinator DJ Durkin 4 previous times in his career: at Stanford from 2008 to 2009, at Florida from 2010 to 2011 and 2014, and at Ole Miss in 2021. During Hutzler's career, his players have accounted for more than 30 all-conference honors, more than 25 all-American accolades, 4 Conference Player of the Year awards, and 4 National Player of the Year nods. Experience. Lots of great, relevant, recent experience, as well as historical experience. If he's getting guys to the NFL, he's worked with Coach Durkin. They said multiple times in his press release. So it allows for a smooth transition. I'm not so sure Auburn had an issue with the Bucks and the edges, but I like this hire. I like this hire a lot. I think this adds to a staff, and it seems like him and Coach Durkin are on the same page. I would probably say that Coach Durkin had a heavy influence on this hire. Wouldn't you?
I would assume so. Yeah. I mean, listen, it wouldn't make sense to me to put someone on the defensive staff that Coach Durkin didn't have heavy influence on the hire, though. Like, because that's ultimately who he's reporting up to, right? Like, you want the guy who is going to be on the staff coaching the defense to be someone that your defensive coordinator is happy with. Like, that's where it would make sense to me. If it's not, then now we're talking about Alex Golesh being the one meddling, not the boosters, right? Like, why are you all in my staff, bro? Like, chill out.
Yeah, I think that if you're going to bring in guys that you've worked with before in the past, speaking of Alex Golesh, from USF, then it makes sense for DJ Durkin to also bring in guys that he's worked with before in the past. For as much emphasis as he puts on having a process-driven program, well, what are those processes? Those are processes that you've developed over your years of experience working at different programs and gathering experience at multiple levels of college football. So bringing in guys you worked with before in the past that understands your process and the way you want things done makes a lot of sense to me. Yeah. I don't really care about the flashy assistant hires. I care about guys. There are a lot of guys at the college level who are very adept at developing talent and being good positionally within their niche. So that's one of the things that I think translates from G5 to P4.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the number of guys that make the leap up from the group of 5 to be heavy contributor or from FCS to be heavy contributors in the P4 ranks is not small, right? There's a lot of guys who did not get evaluated out of high school as a guy who quote unquote belonged in this program. They were a 3-star. And again, I'm not sitting here advocating that, okay, well, just go get a bunch of 3-stars and develop them up. What I am saying is, if you've had to do that consistently as find guys that nobody else was looking for, I trust you to be able to do that at this level better than anybody else. You should be someone who identifies, like, all 3-stars aren't made the same. I know this guy's a 3-star guy, but trust me when I say he can play at this level. So when I get in here, and this is one of the things Coach Golesh was talking about, he's like, yeah, I'm evaluating practice tape, but I haven't had a chance to get my hands on this guy. So yes, I'm seeing some stuff, and I'm seeing, okay, practice number 1, and I'm watching practice number 50, and I don't see a lot of development there, but I don't know what process they were taking him through to get him developed. So is it that guy can't be developed? He's already hit his ceiling? Or does this coach who's been doing the developing not really have the right process to develop him? Or did they misevaluate him from the very beginning? That's hard for me to come in here and gauge. But I trust a guy who's had to do that because it was out of necessity than some other person who's never had to do this in their life figuring that out.
Yeah. Again, I mentioned he had a lot of very relevant experience. I also want to note, beside Mississippi State, also was at Alabama 2022 and 2023 as the special teams coordinator and outside linebackers coach. In 2020, he was at Texas as a defensive coordinator there. Boston College also on the list there for Coach Hutzler. So he joins Alex Golesh's staff and DJ Durkin's staff on the defensive side of the ball, where Auburn will look to continue what really has been a tradition of excellence these last few years defensively. Defense hasn't really been the problem. They haven't been perfect, and there's certainly room for growth. And we talked about that with what Coach Van Dyke is going to have, kind of revamping and reshaping the mindset of that defensive backs room. Now he's going to coach corners. We all could tell you that was probably the weakest position group on the team.
Which is so crazy from how I thought it was going to be at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, man. But there's talent there. I think there's talent there. Bring a fresh process in, bring in some fresh eyes, and a lot of what needs to be fixed in the offseason. And this is what I said about Auburn offensively, which is what I want to close the show talking about. They released. Did you see the email with the postseason All SEC? Auburn had one player make All SEC offensively. Now, I want to take you back to all the talk about this coaching search being so many high-profile guys interested in coaching this very talented roster. So for all the talent you had, only Jeremiah Cobb made third team All SEC, Ike.
Yeah.
That's it. Cam Coleman not being anywhere on a postseason All SEC list is criminal.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Again, Cam Coleman, I don't care whether people think he's generational or not, will have no shortage of people who would love to have his services this coming season if he gets the transfer portal.
Now.
So for a guy who every team in the country would welcome him to be on their team, and you can't find a way for that guy to be in the top 6 wide receivers in the conference, is crazy.
Crazy. Wild. Not only that, I mean, look, Xavier Atkins, I think, was the sole Auburn player to make first team All SEC defense. Obviously, Keldrick Falk made it. Kieron Crawford made the list. And I think there was one other guy that made.
Did you already say Xavier Atkins? I'm sorry.
Yeah. Xavier Atkins was the only first team guy.
Right.
And obviously he was a beast this year. He definitely earned it. I mean, that was kind of a no-brainer if you ask me. It just felt like there should have been more guys on this list.
Again, relatives, and this was for all. I hate going back this far because people are like, well, you just give the Gus thing a rest. Okay, but listen, it's part of Auburn history, and it's important to contextualize my situational thought process around this stuff. That's the reason why I had such a frustration with Gus Malzahn, right? Is the talent versus the results. And this is the reason why Hugh Freeze had to go. You had way too much talent to produce the results that you got. Not that you're a bad coach, which I think arguably Coach Hugh Freeze was not a very good coach in these last 2 years, but not that Gus Malzahn was a bad coach. You just underperformed with the talent that you have. There's no way you can tell me you're landing top 25 classes that can't find a way to get in the top 25 at the end of the. You got talent to be there. Why can't you put it together on the field? There's something wrong here. If you're getting top 10 talent, but you're consistently not getting 6 wins, or in the 2 years you were here, you didn't get. What are we doing? How? How do you have all of these guys? Or even worse, you've got all of this talent on this offense, and the offense looks terrible. You can't even be in the top half of the conference in offensive output with all of this.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's crazy to me. Like, I'm sorry. Like, something's fundamentally broken here. It had to get torn apart.
Kieron Crawford and Keldrick Falk were third team all SEC defense. Again, Xavier Atkins, the lone first teamer there. He joined Georgia's CJ Allen and Missouri's Josiah Trotter as first team all SEC at linebacker. But this was too much talent to not have more guys on this list.
Yeah.
Right.
It's criminal. Like, again, it's absolutely malpractice.
I think it underscores what the assignment for Alex Golesh is offensively. At the end of the season, we need to be talking about more Tigers on this list. Jeremiah Cobb made third team, and I think we can still agree he was underutilized this year.
Yeah. Again, I get he was a little injured, but he should have made 1,000 yards this season, right? Like, there's not a legitimate reason why he's not 1,000-yard rusher. And, again, the hand injury at the beginning of the season, I understand that. He was a little banged up at the end of the year. But, yes, underutilized this season and should have had more opportunities to show what he could do.
Same way Jarquez Hunter was underutilized the year before.
I would argue, Jarquez Hunter was criminal what happened to him. Again, like that. Jeremiah Cobb, I understand a little bit. Jarquez Hunter, I have no explanation for. None.
Yeah, I will tell you. Jarquez just, he was, again, this is the second straight year where Auburn has produced the second leading rusher in the conference. So you have great running backs. And Jarquez had 70 less carries than Dylan Sampson at Tennessee, who led the SEC in rushing in 2024. The talent is there. I think that Alex Golesh's job, if Cam Coleman stays, if he's on this roster next year, and whoever ends up being the quarterback, if they are not them and Cam Coleman aren't one of the best quarterback wide receiver tandems in the SEC, if not the country next year, it will represent a failure for this staff. Those guys are just too good. They're too good. I think Cam Coleman's drops and the fumble and the Iron Bowl, I think they represent a failure of process in the offseason. Personally, I think that, when you don't have excellence in your process, even your best players will mess up routine things. You've got to be good, in the 1,000 hours in the offseason to be good in the 40. You've got to be excellent in the 1,000 hours in the offseason to be excellent in the 40 during the season. A process-driven program. He repeated something that Freeze said. And, to his credit, a lot of good coaches I hear say that the best programs are the player-led programs, where the players and the leaders step up from the player standpoint and they help you drive the process. Defensively, they had that. Keldrick Falk was that guy for you defensively. He was a culture keeper for Auburn on defense. Who would you say that guy was offensively for Auburn? Ideally,
to me,
think it was the quarterback.
To me, that was not the biggest problem, but it's like if you're not going to have elite level coaching, you better have a really great leader on the field. And Auburn did not have either of them. Like you cannot. That's why Auburn had so many one-score losses last year, because the thing that allows you to win those games, you had neither of them. You got to have one of the two. When you got both of them, you end up with what Georgia had this year, which is a team that really kind of underperformed their talent for vast majorities of games, but found ways to win because they've got elite coaching and they've got leadership on the field. When you have neither of those, you will consistently come up short in the crunch time when it's necessary for you to go get that drive, for you to go get that score, for you to bounce back from that bad call. You can't do it. It's just not possible. You can't overcome both of those things. Bad coaching and poor leadership, it's impossible.
Yeah. Look, you need guys to step up. And if you're at war and you're on the front line, I need the guy leading the charge to be the bravest guy out there. Because if he's not brave, what chance do the people following him have?
Right.
That example that you set matters. So when we look at our head coach, does he look composed? Does he look like he's got it under control? Does he look calm and in control?
Right.
Does he look scared?
And especially if you're playing like a check with me system and I got to look to the sidelines like every play, like I need to make sure it's a steady hand over there, man. And like, again, this is something that, I will agree with you on. That kind of stuff happens way before Saturday, though, right?
Way before Saturday, yeah.
How confident am I with the plan that we walked in here with, so that when we get in and the plan goes awry, I'll go back to the thing I just said about John Cohen and this hiring, right? Like, I don't think at any point in time when the Summerall thing started to dissolve, John Cohen was panicked, because he's like, all right, fine. I got somewhere else I can go with this. So, yeah, it didn't go the way I thought it was going to go initially, and Summerall was the initial guy that I had. But when that fell apart, I'm good because I've planned for this. Where was the plan for Auburn football on Saturdays when stuff fell apart? You don't see it. You never saw it where it looked like, all right, cool. Yep, we didn't get that call. No worries. I've got a plan for that. Nope, this call of this, like, I thought we were going to be able to do QB run a bunch in this game because when we looked at on film, blah, no worries. I got a plan for that. They're prepared for QB run. Cool. I got a plan for that. They're going to take what's crazy to me, early in the Alabama game, right? I think I tweeted it during the game. You're going to have to stop calling all of these, these little quick stop routes. Bama's ready for that. They came in, they saw the Vandy film, and they said, all right, we're going to take away those little quick routes that you got a bunch versus Vandy. We're sitting on that all game. You know what happened? Derek Nix was like, cool. We're going to run that stuff, and then we're going to run little stuff behind it. So when you sit down at 5 yards, I've got a receiver. Now, they dropped some of those passes, but they had a plan to pivot off of what we initially thought was going to work. For 9 games of the season last year, you didn't look like you had a plan for getting hit in the mouth, and that's crazy. I don't understand that, man. That's what I go back and I look at this last season, and I'm just absolutely flabbergasted as to how we arrived at a place where you have a team that looks unprepared weekly.
Yeah, look, Alex Golesh seems like he has a plan to get those details right in the offseason. A lot of what needed to be fixed was offseason work, right? And I said this on a previous show. A quote from a former Auburn player that said, in relation to Hugh Freeze, and I quote, "It's a shame, Mike." He was talking to me directly. So much of it is because of how much time they waste from June to July because the head coach is lazy and unmotivated. That was a prominent former Auburn player This was not a bench rider that said this to me, and made this point repeatedly when we would have talks and said, "Wait, you'll see." After one meeting, we got up and he said, "Auburn will never win with him as head coach." And I was like, "Wow, man!" Like I was hoping he was wrong because there was so much talent on the team. It was like, man, that's a really bold proclamation to make. But he watched it every day in practice, so he understood how all that high-level talent was being mismanaged. And it all culminated in what we saw. I have to believe at least some of this started to make it to John Cohen's ear at the time that he pulled the trigger. There's just
the Kentucky, if the Missouri game didn't convince you, the Kentucky game had to. Like, even if you never went to I have not in the entirety of the Hugh Freeze since we've been covering Auburn, forget who's been the coach, right? Going back to Gus, I've not made one single practice. I have not been to a single football practice except for A-Day, which is a glorified one, right? But I can tell you when I look at Saturdays, say, that's a team that's not, they weren't ready for what. If you weren't convinced, I didn't have to go to practice to know, bro, there's no way you thought whatever you thought what you were going to do, you tried it out there on the field. I was at Texas A&M and I watched that team. I was at the Kentucky game. I watched. Those teams were not ready to play football. There was a bad plan from the beginning. It's like, what are you actually doing? What have you been doing all week if this is what you tried it out here? That's crazy. 3 points. 3.
So if Golesh is your guy and the talent wasn't really the issue, the process was, is this a one off-season fix if he can retain most of this roster?
Possibly, and that's why I've been kind of stern on this 8-win thing, bro. I'm like, if you retain most of this, I don't want to hear about, man, no, because you should have won 8 this year. If you fix the processes and you can have some semblance of a complementary offense to what you've been putting out on 8 wins. I don't care how tough the schedule is. I don't care. You got too much. Now, if it's a complete blow up and you got to start all the way over, new talent, you only retain, then we can rehab that conversation. But I'm looking at the roster as it stands today, and I'm looking at what I anticipate the attrition being and the things that you're going to gain back from the transfer portal. I'm saying to myself, 8 wins, man. You got to get to 8, or it's not going to be what it should have been. Then we have to have a different conversation about the things that led you to something lower than 8. But 8 wins should be where we're talking about. Like, that is the minimum, bro. Like, we're not sitting here acting as if these aren't talented players that you should have won 8 wins this year with.
Yeah, again, all facts. I think those are all facts, Ike. It's the assignment is clear, and I like Alex Golesh a lot. I've spoken with him twice. We've texted back and forth a couple of times. He promised me that he would go get Guthrie's as soon as possible. Double fries, no slaw. This man is on the right track.
Listen, he hit up Guthrie's and Mama Goldberg's. He good. He might as well just anoint him as the guy in Auburn right now. He's already on the right track.
No, I think that he is personable. And, I said this on Twitter. I think I said it on the show, but when you talk to coaches, there is a arrogant, self-important air about some of these coaches.
For sure.
Where they just don't want to be talking to you. And they can't even hide it. They don't have the decency to even hide it. Right now, Auburn has a set of head coaches that don't have any of that. I don't know if there is an Auburn coach I've ever wanted to succeed more than I want Stephen Pearl to succeed. I really, really like Stephen Pearl. I hope he breaks every single record his dad set here.
Yeah, I'm a big SP fan. I have been from the I am not one of those people who are like, this is a nep. I don't care what you feel like the reason was he got the job. He deserves it, and he's a good coach.
Yeah. Alex Golesh gives me the same feeling when you talk to him. He doesn't come off self-important. He doesn't come off arrogant. After the press conference on Monday, there were a lot of guys who were meeting him for the first time. And I stood off to the side and just watched him introduce himself. And look, man, you don't owe the media anything, really. Because there are coaches who they make it clear they're going to spend as little time with the media as humanly possible. Yeah. On Monday, I swear he gave a nearly 10-minute answer to a question. I was sitting here. I was like, I don't know.
He gives very. He's a very interesting mix of the last two coaches, because Brian Harsin was like that. He was kind of long-winded in his responses. He'd be very detailed and stuff. He'd be like, bro, I did not expect all of that. Mm-hmm. Now, he didn't really want to be there half the time, right? Part of it because they weren't winning, and it was very frustrating with all the stuff going on behind the scenes. And then you had Coach Freeze, who he wasn't he was kind of talking around stuff, and he would say stuff without saying stuff, but you felt like you kind of knew where he stood with stuff, and he felt like he was kind of personable, but like also a little bit like, all right, this is kind of very surface level too. Like, it was weird, very politician like with him. I think you got a little bit of both, the hard-nosed, all about the ball guy, but with a little more personality, right? And so you got a good mix of the two. So it's going to be interesting to see where that puts Auburn as a program going forward.
Look, I think the reason why I'm spending time talking about this is because I think this matters in recruiting.
For sure, it does.
People sense when you are genuine and when you're selling them, man. I talked to a UCF recruit that said, hey, look, man, Scott Frost was I committed because he was honest with me about what I needed to work on to become a better player, instead of just trying to sell me like the other coaches I talked to. He said, look, man, I'm going to be honest with you where your game is at. You need work. Here are the areas we evaluated on film where you need work. Here's why we're the guys to get you there. So if you're willing to come in and you're where you're at right now, you don't have a chance to start. That if you put the work in and you focus on the things that we show you, you can get there. It's going to take a ton of work, though. You're not close. He said he appreciated that honesty, and it was one of the reasons why, because he felt like of all the coaches he talked to, that was the most genuine anybody had been with him in the recruiting process. And I think that Alex Golesh, why it matters how you come off to people is that when you try to just turn it on for the recruits, some guys are going to be able to sense that you're being fake to try to get their commitment. Yeah. It's important that you come off as genuine, and it's easier to do when you are naturally that way and you don't have to try. That's it. Like, what's funny is this, I'm going to make this a little personal. Every once in a while, somebody will send me something from a message board about one of the two of us. And what I think is funny is if you look at those threads, there's almost always now somebody who comes in behind them and says, I've met those guys in real life, and they're nothing like what you're trying to portray them as. Because if you meet us, most of the negative things that are said about us are bullshit. It's only the people who have decided not to like us. They predetermined they don't like us because one time we had a take they didn't like, that they think that we're the worst people in the world.
Yeah.
And it's funny to me. But, you are who you are, right? I am who I am every single day.
Right. Like, I don't even have a reason to give you anything else. I think that's the weird thing. It's like, you do realize, like, if I'm being fake, that I got to do that. Like, I'm on camera a lot, bro. Like, I'm out in public a lot.
Yeah. Look,
that's a lot to maintain.
But look, there are guys who do that.
But they're not on camera nearly as much as we are. They're not in public nearly.
No. I do think that there are guys in national media on TV that have a whole nother persona for TV. And
okay. I ain't talking about Hollywood folks. I'm talking about folks around Auburn.
Yeah. So I mean, at the end of the day, you're right, but that takes a lot of energy.
Yeah,
it does. And I think, like I said, I've noted Alex Golesh in the few interactions. And if look, man, people is my thing. Judging character, people, I've always related to people very well. I think it's part of being a military brat, right? And moving a lot of places where there were a lot of people like me and moving other places where there was nobody like me. And every few years I had to reset my friend circle because we moved to another state.
Yeah.
Or we had to be around another culture. Hawaii was the highlight of my childhood. Nobody from where I was, we went from Alabama to Hawaii. I had been a lot of other places, right? I was born in New Jersey. My sister was born in Hawaii back in the 80s. My parents are from South America. If you guys don't know that, I have two parents that were born in the country of Guyana. They immigrated to the United States. I'm the son of two first-generation immigrants. My dad is more American than most people born here in America. Gave the Army 30 years, 10 years as a police officer. And we had to learn how to relate to different people. So when I'm standing in front of Alex Golesh, to me, it's really easy to see who he is as a person. I had a hard time reconciling who Hugh Freeze was to us professionally and who I was told he was to other people. That was one of the biggest conundrums I had. He was very, very, very good to us professionally.
I mean, honestly, and this is the thing that is, I think, the most disappointing about the Freeze tenure is I do actually think that Hugh Freeze is a genuinely good person. I don't think he's and he's got his faults, sure, but he wasn't good at his job for he was good at portions of it, the recruiting portion, but everything else, he just didn't do his job well, and it made it difficult. And I think that's the reason why it makes it hard for a guy like John Cohen to want to fire him, because it's like, he's a good guy, but golly, man, we got to do a job here, bro. What? It's just one of those people where it's like, I love you as a person, but you can't work for me anymore. And I know that might damage our friendship a little bit, but at the end of the day, how you perform at this job reflects on me.
On me, yeah. Right.
And so I can't
do something about you, they're gonna do something about me. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't keep letting you screw me like this, dude.
Mm-hmm.
And so again, I don't think he's a bad person, but he wasn't getting the job done, man. So like I said, like you said, the trying to figure out how to balance out who you seem to be in the interpersonal relationship versus how you've done your job. That's a difficult thing. Because I ain't hearing good stuff about how you're doing your job, bro. And I'm not seeing good results.
The wild thing is there are people who played for him and worked for him during these last 3 years who would tell you that they think he's a bad person. And, that was that was so hard for me to reconcile. I never got that Hugh Freeze when we were one-on-one. And so in my head, I was like, is my radar off on this? Like, I'm pretty good at this. But I'm telling you, Alex Golesh gives off a lot of very positive things. He doesn't give me good old boy vibes. I do not get good old boy vibes from Alex Golesh. And I think that he is more of a John Cohen type hire than Hugh Freeze was. If that makes sense. Like, if you know John Cohen, Alex Golesh, personality-wise, is closer to John Cohen than Hugh Freeze was.
Yeah, I mean, I think I could agree with that, because Cohen is he's a very business-like approach to just about everything, right? And he could be a good guy. Like, he's not difficult to talk to, but like what he's focused on is the business. Like, how are we going to get these things done? And he's very meticulous and analytical. Like, that's just kind of the way that he processes life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like this. So that being said, if there's a chance that this marriage between Golesh and Cohen is going to be a success, I think it's much higher now, because you have somebody more in the mold of what you are looking for from a character and personality standpoint. And that synergy matters. It does in a program. When it's off, you've got turmoil behind the scenes. So you've got a guy who truly is, I think, going to be on the same page with how you want to do things and what you want this program to be about, what you want this athletic department to be about. And I'm excited for all the things that Alex Golesh will potentially accomplish as Auburn football's 33rd head football coach. He's got some tough decisions to make. And, when we talk about the Byron Brown Deuce Knight conversation, a lot of people are mistaking, thinking that I'm advocating for Deuce over Byram, and that's not what I'm doing. So if you were in our comment section and that's what you've been thinking we've been doing, I'm going to take the time to just correct that perception. What I'm highlighting is I think this is one of the first very, very tough decisions that he has to make as the head coach of Auburn about what direction to go in that, and Tuberville told Hugh Freeze this, and for what it's worth, I don't think he listened, right? He said, if you don't have a QB, you're cooked. Go get Diego Pavia. And we know from Pavia's own mouth, I think, that he had some interest in Auburn at the very least, if not flat out wanting to play here. He didn't come, so I can only assume Auburn did not return that interest.
Right.
Other football minds told Hugh Freeze, go get that kid. If you needed a savior at quarterback, there was a good chance that Diego Pavia was going to be that. Jackson Arnold was never going to be that. You needed Jackson Arnold to save your job, essentially, the way you were doing your job. And if you're Alex Golesh, you got to get this right from year one. And I think it's a difficult decision. Do I bring my guy in or do I roll with this highly talented top 50 overall guy?
Right.
Whatever decision he makes, as long as it produces wins, I'm good with it.
And that's literally there's no way to know until we see the results. But that's been my argument from the very beginning. It's like, and I'm going back to the 8-win number. If you can get 8 wins with Deuce Knight, go get 8 wins with Deuce Knight. But if you can go get 10 wins with Byron Brown,
then you bring him in because you're in the playoff.
Byron Brown.
Because you're in the playoff in that conversation. That's all.
Correct.
That's been my only point. But if you're not,
again, it may be about speed, right? Because you don't have a lot of time. So it's like, while I'm showing you the ropes, we can go. I don't have to teach you how I want you to practice and all that kind of stuff. That kind of stuff matters. I'm not saying that the offense is so difficult that Deuce Knight can't pick it up. I'm saying having the speed of us being able to just hit the ground running, because this guy's already been through this a couple of times with me, just as important as it is to get the coaches in here who know how I like to run practice and the guys who already know how I want you to teach these guys to line up for these splits and XYZ. It's also important to know this guy knows where to look to the sidelines for this kind of stuff. And this is the way in which we're calling plays. And he already kind of knows. That's why Diego Pavia worked at Vanderbilt so well immediately, because he already knew in this scenario, this is kind of how the coach normally calls this. So we don't have to be doing a bunch of guesswork. We can go in immediately and just start doing it. And I can focus on building relationships with guys and being a better leader out the gate. Because I know all the others. I know the playbook already. I know how the coaches function. I know how to do all that stuff. Now I just need to know, all right, what are we doing on Friday night as a team? And, who are the guys who are priority for me to get in here and throw with and all that kind of stuff, man. It's a different thing. And it's not the same as Jackson Arnold coming in, who had to learn all of this stuff at one time and figure out how to build relationships. And it's a different process when you've been with the guy and you bring him in and y'all are already thinking alike when you hit the ground running.
Yeah, I agreed. Look, it's going to be a fun offseason covering it all. Can't wait to see what Alex Golesh does. Let's get to a few comments before we get out of here. We've been on over 90 minutes tonight on the Mid-Week Rapport. I want to thank everybody who joined us live on YouTube. If you're on Twitter, do us a favor. There's over 3,000 people in here. Come on over to YouTube, hit subscribe on the channel, maybe even become a patron. Drop us some love in the comments. We need your engagement over on YouTube. So we love our Twitter audience, but we need you to come on over to YouTube. So do us a favor and do that right now. Dustin Pace says, can we have a genuine convo about malpractice? There was tons of malpractice going on.
Yeah.
Prior.
I mean, I think that those conversations are being had, though. I don't think that the War Report is the only place that's talking about how this appears to be malpractice in coaching. And I mean, and again, I think that's unfortunate, but show me how it's not.
Yeah. Let's see here. The Can Lee says, really done talking about Hugh Freeze anymore, other than your interview with Hugh Freeze. When is that planned, by the way? We're going to get that done this month. I probably won't put it out until January, though. So look for that, after the new year. Louis Bree says Tim Banks hired a safety coach, unofficial. Have you heard this?
I haven't. I mean, they've announced some more hirings here within the last hour or so, but yeah, I haven't heard about any unofficial situations. Maybe somebody's reported that since we've been on.
Yeah, there were some staff additions that they added, which I'll get to here before the end of the show as well, too. JJ Brand says, do we have confirmation that Hugh Freeze will receive his full buyout, or is that pending? John Cohen said in a press conference, he was asked about the buyout. We reported that there was contention over the buyout. John Cohen all but confirmed it by saying, hey, we're negotiating with you. Those talks aren't close to done, is what he said. And that's verbatim straight from the mouth of the athletic director. Reeves Uppercut says it's a shame what has become of the bowl season. First, it was players opting out. Now it's teams that won 6 or more games opting out. A lot of folks didn't think we'd be here, but here we are. Cleveland Brown with the $5 super chat says, Hugh throwing Jackson Arnold under the bus was off-putting. So much for accountability.
I you know what? Again, I hate sounding like a Hugh Freeze apologist. I didn't read that as him throwing him under the bus. But what I will say is this is another example of the messaging issue that Coach Hugh Freeze has, where it's like, I don't even know that it was necessary for you to say what you said the way you said it, because it left the door open for this conversation to happen. And this is just kind of another in the series of things where, like, you didn't even have to say that, bro. Like, you made this a conversation when it didn't need to be. And that has been the problem for him for really the entirety of his career as a head coach, where you've created conversations in spaces that didn't need to be conversations just because you didn't take like a half a second to say, now, how is this going to play with other people outside of my brain?
Let me step outside myself and listen to this.
Right.
And
before I say this,
how could this be spun?
Because you knew there's no way a conversation with you as the Auburn head coach who has just been fired that this type of thing was not going to come up. You should have had something prepared to say for this. And if that's what you came up with to say, my brother in Christ,
yeah,
what are we doing?
It was a low-hanging fruit question about Jackson Arnold,
which is why it's the most obvious one for you to come in prepared to talk about. But you chose to say it in a way that allowed for this to be a whole other conversation. It's like, man, come on, man.
When I tell you, when he got here and he was talking about recruiting after losses, and I was like, yeah, it's not the time for that conversation. And I said, this coach has a messaging problem. I don't think that it sends the right message to your team to say we need better players after a loss.
Right.
And then claim you're taking responsibility for the loss. I said, this coach has a messaging problem. There were like 20 idiots on the On3 and Bunker message boards that were like, Mike T keeps talking about messaging, and can we just get him to stop talking about messaging? And 2.5 years later, what's everybody talking about?
And again, you can go back for years and years and years, and you see a pattern of, like, I don't think you thought that through 100% when you did or said that. And again, it's not that I don't even believe that I don't think you were being malicious in your intent. I don't even think you were being dishonest in your statement. I think you were being unnecessary in the way in which you approached it. Like, there was a much better way to get that exact same message, this exact same outcome done, and you chose one of the worst possible ways to do it. Again, I don't think you're a bad dude. I just think you make really terrible decisions.
Words and tone matter, right?
Not just words and tone, but when you say those words and that
timing,
tone, right?
timing matters. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look, the Bible says what? Life and death is in the power of the tongue. If
Facts.
life and death is in the power of the tongue, how many other things are in the power of the tongue? Right? If you're a kid, and this is back before you.
Hold on. The end of that says, and they that love it eat the fruit of it, right? Like you have to figure out there's going to be some consequences for all the stuff you do and say. You have to know what it is that you're preparing, because you got to eat the fruit of that.
Yes, you do. We grew up during a time where if you stepped out of line, our parents beat our ass. Right.
Facts.
And there was no CPS being called. As a matter of fact,
Facts.
the cop showed up, they would be like, look, you better take it or we're going to beat your ass too for your parents. I can tell you this, right? Tone matters. Words matter. If your mother called you and says, Isaac, and you said, yes, mom, you probably have a very normal interaction like that. If she called you, but you said, what? Your teeth would be on the floor. Because words and tone matter.
Right.
I don't know how to explain this any better. And you have a responsibility at this level to make sure that your messaging is consistently conveying exactly what you're trying to communicate.
Right.
If it is not, then you have a messaging issue. And it matters at this level of football. Especially if you're not going to go out and just win football games. If you want to be a jerk in the media, you better win. Or the media is going to take you to task.
They will going back to the whole golf thing, right? Wouldn't have mattered if you had won games.
If you're winning, nobody cares how you're spending your time, man. I can't.
But the minute you do something that is anti-productive and you lose, that's going to be the first thing that they bring up.
Yeah.
You made yourself a meme for no reason. You created a conversation for why? Why is this the conversation we're having going into the most important season of your career at Auburn thus far?
When he called me about the Damari Alston statement, when Damari decided to redshirt, he called me, and I know I wasn't the only reporter / media person he called. And I was wondering why he called me, but because I didn't even ask him the question about Damari at the press conference. Right. But he called and he said, Mike, I wasn't trying to demean Damari's character with my statement. And I said to him, I said, look, coach, I won't be disrespectful because you've been coaching a long time. But when when you say that a player didn't live up to a program's expectations and standards, that's what you say when a player did something really bad that y'all don't want to talk about.
Right.
So if he didn't do it, you and I both know that didn't happen. So you can't say that. What he said to me was legal gave me that statement. And I said, again, I don't want to be disrespectful. I don't want to sound condescending to somebody who's been coaching longer than I've been doing sports media. But you've been doing this long enough to get that statement and then tell legal, I can't say this.
Right.
Write something better. Now, if you have not developed that skill at this point in your coaching career, you are probably not the right guy for Auburn. That's literally the conversation we had. And so, I said, so to be clear, you were not trying to demean his character as a player or a teammate. And he said, absolutely not. That's well said. He went on Tiger Talk and he said 30 minutes after our conversation and said it exactly like that. I hope that we're not sitting here talking about some wacky thing Golesh said in the media that got misconstrued the wrong way because of just carelessness of phrasing. It distracts from what you're trying to build. And it will absolutely be loaded up and used as ammo against you in recruiting.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm telling you, it is absolutely getting loaded into that gun and shot right at your forehead in recruiting. So I like it. I think Golesh to me comes off very thought out and thoughtful in that way when he talks about things. And I think we saw that on Monday, which was why some of his answers were long-winded, but the words that he chose, I thought were good. They were good. April. Mike G with the fresh cut. That's our guys at the Vibe Vault. Go check them out. Highway 431, man. We plugged them on the mid roll. Alex Brown says, how about the Seahawks electing to throw the ball instead of running it in the Super Bowl that year, Mike? Fun fact, I lived 4 miles from Glendale, like the stadium when that happened. This was probably one of the most egregious football calls in the history of football. If you hand the ball to Marshawn Lynch, you win the Super Bowl. Period. What was he doing, man? Hopefully we're not seeing any of that, Ike, here at Auburn, where the obvious call is being ignored for some unnecessarily complicated thing. You had Jarquez Hunter, man. You hand him the ball, you win more football games. It's literally that simple. You had Jeremiah Cobb and Cam Coleman. You throw and run with them more, you win more football games. It's a shame they didn't try to do that until it was almost FUBAR. Until you were in a shot where you were definitely not going to make a bowl game. Auburn had to pull off 2 top 15 wins in 3 games at the end of the season to make a bowl game. Wild, man. I do not want to see them by week 9. I want to see Auburn have secured a bowl game next year. Week 9. That means 6-3. That's what I want to see. I know there are some bye weeks in there, so maybe not week 9, but you understand what I'm saying? After 9 games,
yeah,
Auburn should have secured a bowl game next season. And if you can do that, you got a chance to win 8 or 9 and have that first, that building block season. I think the Golesh is going to need to have the proof of concept that he talked about. So, look, great conversation here. I appreciate everybody who joined us. Again, over 3,000 of you here live with us between YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. We're going to go on and get out of here. But before we do, YouTube has a new feature, Ike, we want to tell them all about.
YouTube now has a hype button just for the content you love the most. The War Report is delivering the coverage you count on daily, so smash that hype button to help the channel reach more college sports fans. It's a great way to support our work. Smash that hype button.
Smash that hype button, but also share this on social media at the War Report, hashtag get your weight up. Like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. You got to be on YouTube to do that. So again, if you're on Twitter, come on over, like and subscribe to the channel. Help us. Let's man, you know what? It's December the 10th. We're almost at 17,000 subs. Is it too much to ask to get to 20 before the end of December? Could we load up 3,000 subs in 20 days?
Hey, ask not because you have not. Make it happen, YouTube community.
There are 3,000 people watching this. I can't believe all 3,000 are subscribed. So let's get that popping, guys. If you're on Twitter right now, add us on X and Instagram at the War Report, TW Report on TikTok. As always, we want to thank our title sponsor, the Rage Room. You can find them in Opelika or in Birmingham at the locations you see here on the screen. I want to thank our sponsors, the Rogue Shop. Please visit therogueshop.com to get 15% off your Rogue Shop order. Sets for Society, get to know yourself with Sets for Society. Again, custom personality assessments. Just fill out the form at setsforsociety.ai. They'll reach out and do the rest. A lot of you guys commenting on the fade and the lineup, the Vibe Vault. Hook me up today. They can hook you up. You can find them on Highway 431 right across the street from Chattahoochee Valley Community College next to Renfro Supermarket and the Marco's Pizza. The Vibe Vault, 3462 Crosswinds Road, Suite E in Phoenix City, Alabama. Not just barbers, lifestyle consultants. And our friends at Abel's I Known More and Associates. That's AMA. Look, man, great fiduciary advice. You don't need a lot of money to need a fiduciary. Trust me. If you have got a paycheck and some goals, AMA can help you. And depending on your situation, they work with some clients completely free. So I don't know anybody who doesn't need sound financial advice. There's a reason why we partner with AMA. What they do is very near and dear to financial education is very near and dear to me, and they're helping making that a reality for a lot of people. So please head on over to AINC.com, scan the QR code on the screen. or call them at 912-777-4128. We've been compensated by Abel's Iron More and Associates for this endorsement. They're an SEC registered investment advisor. Registration as an investment advisor does not imply a certain level of skill or training. Guys, that's it for today's show. Myself, Ike Jones. We'll be back at you guys tomorrow on the Auburn Express and on through the weekend with lots of great War Report content. We're signing off, and as always, War Eagle.
War Eagle.